Welcome to the regularly monthly meeting of the Board of Adjustment. The board was created by the city charter to hear applications for variances from the zoning ordinance requirements and to hear and render decisions of interpretations of the requirements of the zoning ordinance. The board consists of 5 voting members. It requires 4 affirmative votes for approval of any variance or interpretation. All cases on the agenda will be heard in the order listed. The order of proceeding for each case shall be as follows. A, city staff will make a brief presentation outlining the application. B, the applicant shall present their case. That's it. Persons in favor of the variance shall present their evidence. Persons opposed to the variance shall present their evidence. The applicant shall be given a rebuttal period. Finally, the public hearing will be closed and no further testimony will be accepted. The normal procedure is that the board will discuss and take action on the application. All meetings of the board are open to the public. Anyone in the audience who thinks that for any reason they will speak before the board tonight, please stand and take the oath. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth in all matters pertaining to the cases before the Board of Adjustment? Please say, I do.
I do.
Thank you. Please be seated. And I'll call the roll. Cody Atkinson. Sarah Wimberly.
Here.
Anthony Summer.
Here.
John Davies.
Here.
And I'm Roy Brown, and I'm here. Okay, I guess. So our first and only case tonight, case number 23-999-02, is a variance to the commercial fencing standards for 3236 South Nolan Road. So we have a movie or slides.
Oh, gotcha, duh.
Yeah.
Yes, this is an application by Cargo Lardo to the commercial fencing standards. They seek to install some commercial fencing on the west side of their new construction there on Nolan Road. I'm sure you've seen it. This is a vicinity map. The building actually goes all the way over to the street basically, but this is the area where the fencing is going to be located. This is the aerial photograph. This is actually very recently taken. They've already got the roof on this in the photograph, which must have been in the last couple of months. But you can see Weatherford Road there on the left, which is on the west side of the road. It's still in a gravel state at this point. You've got Nolan Road on the right. There's Truman High School across the street. The main building for the current Cargo Largo store is to the south, and then to the southwest is the Lipton plant, or whatever it's called now. I'm sorry, I forgot. Unilever, I'm sorry. Okay. This is the site plan that details the types of fencing and their locations. The north is on the right of the on the right of the slide, and so we have the fencing along Weatherford Road. The kind of pinkish fence, which is the southern section, will be a wrought iron decorative style. I believe they say that the fencing is going to be made out of aluminum. And then the yellow, or slight yellow, will be a black vinyl coated fencing. And then the bluish green color will be the non-coated typical galvanized chain link. So we have 2 variances in play. The first is there's not supposed to be any fencing between the building and the street, and that's obvious here. And then the types of fencing, the use of non-coated galvanized chain link is also the other one. We have some pictures here. This is We're on Weatherford Road, which is still, like I mentioned, still graveled surface. We're looking to the northeast at, I believe this is the Southern Drive, which comes out onto Weatherford. Here we're looking north up Weatherford. Again, the site is on the right. That is existing industrial buildings north of the property. Here we're looking north. This is the detention basin area that will be between Weatherford and their shipping freight area there. You can see it on the diagram. It's the kind of the large area there. This part of Weatherford, this curbing is not in yet. Now here we're looking south. This is the Central Drive. There's 3 driveways onto Weatherford from the business, and I think this is the central one. This section is the curbing has been put in, and the drive entrance or apron. And here we're further south, and we're looking down Weatherford. The new portion of the building, again, is off to the left. That you see down in the distance there is the Southern Drive, and if you look real close, you can see the library off in the distance there on the right side or west side of Weatherford, and then the Cargo Largo store off to the right, off to the left. And I can show those to you again if you'd like to see those. Again, the variances apply to the location of the fence and then the fencing material.
Thank you. Were there any calls on this?
No, which is not unusual for commercial property.
Will the applicant please come forward? And please state your name and your address.
DPAC. My address is 4900 West 83rd Terrace, Prairie Village, Kansas, 66207.
Thank you. So would you please, are you going to speak too? Okay. You want to go ahead and state your case, explain to us why you want this variance?
Sure. So there are 2 primary reasons for having the fence, setting aside what type of fence. One is a public safety. We have a fairly sizable detention basin on the west edge of the property there to accommodate drainage off the site, and it is going to have water in it for a good part of the year. So there's a concern or a desire to have a fence on that to keep out the public and have any type of unwanted type of activities there. Also, the west side of the building here is where our truck court is located. There is a lot of activity with large commercial vehicles, again, wanting to prevent any type of unwanted situations there. And then there's also a security issue. I don't think it's any secret that there's a fair amount of homeless, not just here, but in locations along Nolan Road, but certainly in the Lipton Conservation Area, there's been a problem in the past. And just wanting to prevent any type of unwanted activity. So public safety and security are the primary motivating factors for having a fence. I was taken aback a little bit that there's a variance request for the fence itself. my understanding is that was something that we were required to have, to the point where it was specified what type of fence that was required for, I think Weatherford's will be considered a feeder road once it's constructed, which we're doing as part of the project. On the west side of Weatherford Road, up until the very north entrance, there really is no public view of that road. We have the substation that's there, the conservation area that's there on the west, and part of Unilever's truck court is on the west. So my understanding of what we're required to have from a fence standpoint is a coated galvanized fence. What we have done, if we could go back to the drawing, the pink, we have exceeded what the code requirement is by having a aluminum decorative fence there. That is the part of the fence that will be most accessible or viewed by the public. The yellow section is the remainder of the frontage on Weatherford Road, and that is a black vinyl coated galvanized fence, so that is what people would see driving along Weatherford. Then what we have requested that is under, if you will, the requirement is shown in the light blue line, and that is galvanized fence. It is comparable to what is on the property adjoining it to the north. So it will be galvanized fence next to galvanized fence. And it also, much of that fence line, virtually all of it, is going to be obstructed by parked trailers. And so from our perspective, there's really no logic whatsoever for spending an additional 25% to powder coat that fence when it is literally going to be right next to another galvanized fence. So that is our presentation. Certainly willing to field any questions you may have.
Thank you. Anybody have questions?
I have a question. So I'm a little confused. I want to make sure I understand clearly that there's sort of two variances requested. One is the location of the fence, that it's normally is not allowed to be between the building and the road. So does that apply to all three of these sections, or does it just apply to section 1 and section 2? So section 3 would be that blue one. Would that?
The portion of the blue line fence, which would be basically between this anyway.
Okay.
That-
So
That
up until
portion of the
building.
fence would be
Okay.
fall into the non-coated
Okay.
part.
Okay. And then as far as the other one, where it needs to be decorative enough, section 1 and section 2 already meet the standard, and they only need a variance for section 3.
Yeah, that's right. Along this type of fencing, along this type of street,
Okay.
which is a non-arterial street, chain link is fine.
Okay.
but it's the galvanized part that's on the north there that's the issue.
Okay. So you said it would be 25% more for to go from a chain link fence to the black vinyl fence?
It is approximately 25% more. Yeah, as it is with this project, we've already spent about another $500,000 in hidden cost in preparing the road. Once you get out there and actually deal with the road material, what we found was much of the existing Weatherford road that had been there before was substandard, and so we had to go back in and put rock. But long story short, we've incurred on the public improvements about $500,000 of additional expense. So, we're already investing a significant sum. And I think what we are proposing certainly exceeds what is required and meets the spirit of it. As I said, it's not like we're dealing with a residential subdivision across the street. We have a truck court, a substation, and a conservation area. My understanding is that the requirement to have a coated fence is based on aesthetics, and I'm not sure who we would be presenting to on the north side that
Right. So you
We're-
said there was
we're-
a chain link fence kind of, I assume, almost parallel to the one that you're proposing to build. Is that right?
Did you ask if there's
Ye-
galvanized fence?
Right, that other galvanized chain link fence that somebody else had already,
Yes, the neighbor to the north has
and it's kind of roughly parallel to that blue section, the section 3.
Correct.
So do you happen to know, did they get a variance for that, or?
Well, the current code standards for fencing has only been in place since July of 2009.
Okay, so
I
it's
have no
probably been
idea
about
how long some of that
Right.
fencing's been out there for decades, is my guess.
Are there any other questions? Thank you. Does anybody else want to speak in favor of it? Okay. I need to ask this. Does anybody wish to speak in opposition to this variance? Okay. No more questions? Okay, we'll just bring it up here. So we'll close the public hearing. So do I have any comments, you guys? Seems,
Just trying to figure out
Excuse me, can you get a little microphone?
pardon? Oh,
Yes, speak into the mic, please.
Okay. I was looking at the map and I see Lynn Court. And then I find Weatherford. It looks like it goes through part of Unilever. Is that the case?
Well, Lynn Court, after this went through years ago, probably a decade ago, the Lynn Court was changed to Weatherford. So it's
Okay.
consistent all the way down from 31st Street on the north down to 35th Street.
Okay.
So Lynn Court is now Weatherford.
Oh, gotcha.
okay.
Yeah, because I'm looking, this is the thing, and it's not, it's not looking right. I mean, I found it, but you had to really.
So are these two separate variances, like we could approve one and reject another, or?
Yeah, the board could do that if they desired.
So,
Yeah. Okay, so,
because
Yeah, I mean, I looked at it at home.
Yeah, the board could decide to divide this into two votes one for the first variance and one for the second variance.
That's what I was like sitting here going.
Let's keep it all together.
Well, so what I was thinking is, that in terms of the location, I don't see any reason why to reject that. In terms of the section 3, I don't know if it's really our role to say that it can be a variance for this, just because it's a little bit more expensive and there's another fence similar to what they want, but it was done before, a fence that was grandfathered into this. So in terms of that, the quality, or the however you want to describe it, the quality of the fence, the presentation of the fence, I don't know if the standard has been met for that.
Well, my comment would be, these are reasonable requests, and this staff agreed with all of the criteria. And the only question is, the alleged hardship has not been created by any person presently having an interest in the property. That's always a difficult one, and yet I think that we could say that the hardship is created by the fact that they're improving the area and they're creating security for their building, and they are providing very nice aesthetics on the fence to the south and the fence to the west. And because the fence to the north is galvanized, no one will see it, and they've spent a lot of money upgrading Weatherford. I personally think that this is a reasonable request, and that we could say that the variance was created by a need that they've met, and not that they didn't just because they own the property, just because.
Right. I mean, so kind of personally, like, as just myself, I understand the logic, and I don't really see a problem with it. It's just, as sort of a board member, it's more of kind of following the procedures of it, and it seems more of a broader issue with this ordinance, that it includes cases like this where, kind of logically, it's mostly hidden fence and everything. So is that something that we are allowed to consider, that, okay, well, it's, they're supposed to have something more decorative, but it's hidden, it's in an area that the public's not really gonna see. So are those factors that we should be considering?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
So, anybody else have any comments, John, or
Oh,
motion?
I think we ought to pass this. This is obviously well done.
Mr. Davies,
Taking care of everything to satisfy me.
Mr. Davies, remember to speak into the microphone there.
No, I think we ought to pass this. They've done everything they can and far exceeded what you'd think. I drive by the building every day and I'm amazed.
Yeah. Do you want to make a motion?
Yes, I do. Thank you. I hereby move that case number 23999-02 is passed
As requested.
as requested. Yeah.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. I'll call the roll. John Davies,
Yes?
Sarah Wimberly,
Yes?
Cody Atkinson,
Yes.
Anthony Summer,
Yes.
and I too will vote yes. So case number 23-999-02 has passed. So now we have, thank you. You're free to go. We have to look at the minutes here from January 19th. Anybody have any corrections? Is everybody okay with the minutes?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll ask for a voice vote. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed to say nay. Okay, the minutes have been approved. Are there any other issues, sir?
City councilor, assistant city councilor, excuse me. We sort of assistant city councilor. We thought maybe that in the future, next couple meetings or so, we would have another case where the counselor would, or council person would talk about the board's role and their responsibilities and so forth. We've done this a couple times in the past. We have some new people here, though, that were not present in any of those. And that might help give you some background information on what their roles are and what they should be looking for in variances, that sort of thing. So we'll be working on that for a meeting or two coming up. Right now, we don't have any applications for May, but there's still a little bit of time. In the next couple days, we may have a May meeting and may not. Oh, yeah, April. I'm sorry.
Okay,
That may be true for May too, but for April, we don't have anything right now.
so when is the deadline for April?
Whatever the third Thursday is in April, hang on just a minute. You said when is the deadline?
When is it? Okay. has it-
Generally, it's this, about the time the meeting is.
Okay, so probably there will be nothing in April.
Probably not.
Okay.
I mean, that could be a time to have this little study session and go over things if you would like.
I think that would be good for the new people to understand more fully the role of this board and this commission. So will that be maybe in May or just whenever will that start? You said two sessions?
Maybe April or May, yeah.
So if there's no session in April, would we meet just for that or would we wait till we actually have a session?
We wouldn't meet just for that. We'd do that on a day where we had some meetings.
We would have it on a day when we'd have a
Okay.
case.
All
So
right.
after the case would be dismissed, like now.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to thank Stuart Borders for improving this presentation. I've sat on this board for 5 years or so, and it continually gets better, and we appreciate it.
Yeah. Amen. Okay. Well, all in favor of leaving, I guess we can vote with our feet and leave.
Are we saying 7 o'clock on the meeting?
What?
We're adjourning at 6:59.
6:59.
Young Kyle. I need to check that number with you again. Was it?